Hey guys, welcome to Motoroids. My name is Amit and I am on top of the Rajaji Forest Reserve right now, which is located close to Rishikesh, the beautiful Rishikesh that's known to be the yoga capital of India, a center for meditation and spirituality. And if you're into that kind of thing where you want to be going out, enjoying yourself in the wild, doing nothing in the wilderness, then the Toyota Hilux, one of the toughest built cars in the world, is probably the car for you. And today I'm reviewing the Hilux for you. This has to be one of the most capable off-roaders that we have right here in India. And it's not just about its 4x4 capability, it's also about its utility as a go-anywhere vehicle, a vehicle that lends itself so beautifully for camping. And as you can see there, Toyota is also offering a ton of accessories to support that lifestyle, and that canopy has space for two to sleep in peace. So even if you are out in the wilderness with no shelter, you can carry your world in that generous loading bay which has a payload of 470 kgs. So in essence, if you're someone who loves being out in the wild, the Toyota Hilux is probably the car for you. And today I'm going to let you know everything that is there to be known about this car. Let's get going with that. Now, as you would have already seen that I have come down from the hill into this riverbed of a seasonal river called Yule, which is a tributary to the Ganga. And this car broke no sweat while coming here. Along the way, there were many obstacles which were prepared by Toyota, and the Hilux took all of them in its stride without a problem at all. And I'm going to come to the off-road capabilities of the car in detail in a bit, but let's talk about the size first. Now, in terms of size, this is comparable to the V-Cross, but you'd be surprised to know that the V-Cross, in terms of dimensions, including the width, the height, the length, and the wheelbase, is very slightly bigger than this car here. This is underpinned by the IMV platform, which also powers the Fortuner and the Innova cars in India. And boy, does it look imposing. That familiar Toyota snout gives it an imposing look. You have this trapezoidal grille with heavy chrome embellishments. You also have this big skid plate with this Toyota badging here. Overall, there are some details, but if you go to see, it really looks like a properly muscular, imposing SUV. And the bonnet is also quite high. It gets these LED DRLs along with an LED projector lamp, and these lamps, by the way, are automatic. You also get these fog lamps here. You don't have any front camera or ADAS functions because ADAS functions are not required when you are off-roading. Overall, it has that very brawny, macho, old worldly look to it. And coming towards the side, you do well to have a look at these chrome mirrors as well, and they really lend this car another touch of class. The molding on the doors is also pretty heavy, and it's only logical because this car will be subjected to a lot of abuse by its prospective owners. The car is accentuated by these massive wheel wells, these squared off wheel arches, 18-inch wheels which obviously are all-terrain. You get the Bridgestone Dweller HT tires, and the tire size here is a massive 265 section. Now, while the ground clearance has not been specified on the brochure, we know that this car comes with 211 mm of unladen ground clearance, and that's important. Also, the seating is pretty high, and that makes this footboard very important for the shorter ones to get in. Another premium element that you have here are these chrome door handles, and as you know, this is a twin cab truck, and at the rear you don't have as much space as you would probably in a full-blown SUV, but this is not bad either. I'll come to that in a bit. And then you have this loading bay here with a payload capacity of 470 kg, but more importantly, it can take in a lot more stuff than what you can put in your boot. And if you are, again, an outdoorsy person, all your camping gear can be put in without a hiccup at all, and you can be out in the wild for days on end without a problem at all. Now at the rear as well, like the front, you get LED elements, but it's not all LED, and some elements here are bulbs as well. Now you also get these parking sensors here, and this chrome embellishment here lends a touch of class. The rear parking camera is here, and it's very important knowing the size of this car. The loading bay handle is also finished in chrome, which is a nice touch, and this is pretty rugged, can take a lot of load. And as you can see here, there is enough space. So if you want to convert this place into a sleeping bed for two, that is very much possible. And for someone who really wants to customize it, this is like a blank canvas, so you can use it for a variety of purposes, and that really is the beauty of the Hilux, or any other pickup truck for that matter. You can use it the way you want and have it customized. So dimensionally, as I mentioned, this is pretty huge. This is actually longer than the Fortuner as well. And it's time now to get inside the car and see what all features do we get here and how the cabin looks like. Now let's have a look at the key as well. And this key here has this faux carbon fiber kind of a finish here with Hilux branding, and very simplistic lock and unlock buttons here. And to unlock the door, you don't really have to use the key per se, you just have to press the button. So like I mentioned, the seat here is placed pretty tall, and you'll need to make use of this footboard. And you also have this handle to help you get inside, and I think it's pretty useful. This is not the tallest of the seat heights that I've seen on an SUV, but this is pretty tall, and I think this footboard and this handle go a long way in making sure that ingress and egress is easy. Now the good thing about this car is that it comes with electric adjustment for the driver's side seat. The seats are leather upholstered, which is very good, and all the windows are one touch up and down, which is fantastic. The arm pads are soft to touch, but that's pretty much all the soft to touch materials that you'll get here. The dashboard is hard plastic, the lower dash is hard plastic, and the panels on the door are also hard plastic, although you do get this satin silver finished inlay here and chrome door pulls. You also get a 1 liter water bottle holder here, and then there is some space to spare. On the right hand side, you have the parking sensors button. The fuel lid and bonnet openers are provided here, and you also get a very nifty cup holder on both ends of the cabin. So for both the driver and the passenger, you have two cup holders. The mirror is auto dimming. You have no sunroof here, although you do have this sunglasses holder. This is how the light functions. The passenger also gets a vanity mirror, albeit without illumination. Another good thing is that you get a dead pedal here. What we have here with us is the automatic variant. You'll also get the manual version with 6-speeder. This also is a 6-speed unit. You get eco and power modes, two cup holders, this little space here, but this car does not come with wireless charging, so that's something missing. Now to start off, there are a few things which are missing in the cabin. You don't have ventilated seats, you don't have a sunroof, you don't have wireless charging, but apart from that, I think this cabin is pretty well appointed. Of course, the dashboard plastics are somewhat hard, but all of it is very, very neatly laid out. You have this satin silver and chrome inlay here on the dashboard. It looks nice, but the touch and feel of the materials is not like some of the other premium SUVs. However, having said that, there are a lot of features here, and let's talk about all of them. The steering here is tilt and telescopically adjustable, and the entire feeling here is very, very solid. You have cruise control here. Steering mounted controls are available right here. The stalks are solid as ever for a Toyota, and so are the AC vents, built to last a lifetime. The instrument console is rather traditional, and you have a tacho and a speedo on either side. You have the engine temperature here and a fuel gauge here, and in the middle you have all the information shown to you through a very effective MID. This interface here should be pretty familiar to those who have driven a Toyota car, and it should be very easy to understand and operate, as well as it's pretty intuitive. Now this car comes with a 2-zone AC, and an interesting bit here is that while there are flow controls for the central AC vents, of course there are direction controls as well, you don't have the flow control for the side AC vents. An interesting bit here is this twin glove box. So in terms of storage space, it offers you a lot of space. Not just that, this is also ventilated, and you can turn the ventilation on and off like so. Now the seats are extremely comfortable. They're very, very well padded. The cushioning is just right. It's not too soft, not too hard. Seats are pretty wide. They're reasonably well bolstered, and I can figure that if you're going to be taking this car for a very long drive, it's not going to tire you at all. Looking at the center console again, you have this 8-inch screen which is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay compliant, and comes with connected features with 20 plus connected car features, including geofencing and most of the features that you generally get with connected cars these days. Now, in terms of resolution and in terms of the touch response, this is okay, but this is not one of the best systems that we have seen. And we'll also have a look at the rear view camera. This is decent, but this is again not the highest of the resolutions that we have seen on such cameras on modern cars. This is perfectly functional, but I would have really wanted to have a car like this with a 360-degree camera at least, so that while I'm maneuvering the car through tough surroundings, I don't need a spotter. So that's the one thing that I would have really wanted this car to have come with. Now coming down here, you have the basic AC controls, and you can have the dual mode on or off using this button. So if you have it off, if you change the temperature on one side, the temperature on both the sides will change, but if you turn it off, you can individually set the temperature on both the sides. You have a USB in socket here along with two 12-volt power sockets, and under this cavernous armrest you also have a 2-pin socket to charge your electric or electronic equipment. This armrest is not a sliding or height adjustable type though. The seat belt here is height adjustable, but the seats, although electrically adjustable, don't have lumbar support. The passenger side seat is only manually adjustable, it's not electric. The parking brake is not electronic, it's a good old mechanical parking brake, and you also have this little space here where you can put your wallet or cell phone if you so wish. Now let's have a look at the gear which is associated with the 4x4 gear, and as you can see here, you can switch from H2 to H4 like so, and H2 essentially means that you're driving on the rear wheels, so the power is given to the rear wheels, and when you turn it to H4 you are in 4 high, and if you want to move to 4 low, you essentially have to go to neutral first and then you can switch to 4 low, and it's shown here, and if I move back to H4, that light will go off. You also have downhill assist control, which is essentially a different word for hill descent control. You can turn the traction control off from here, and this car also comes with an electronic locking rear diff, and you can engage that by pressing this button here. So once it's engaged, this red light here will go on, and once you are in 4 low, you can also turn the rear diff lock on, which is electronic, so you don't have to mechanically engage it, and a light will come on here. The 8-inch screen here is connected to 6 speakers, and the sound quality is decent, but it's not class busting or class leading. So if you're an audiophile, you would probably need to upgrade the audio as well. Now all in all, this cabin here is very functional, it's very rugged, it's built to last, the visibility is fantastic. However, there are a few features missing, and this is not the most luxurious of the front sides of the cabin that you'll come across. Time now to get to the rear end of this twin cab and see how much space do we have for the passengers. Now just like the front, you have this handle and this footboard here to make it easy to come inside. And the other thing that you'll notice is that the door is not as wide as you'd probably find on a full-fledged SUV. This part here is again soft to touch, but rest of the materials, just like the front, are hard plastics, satin silver finish here, chrome door pulls, one touch up and down function for the windows, 1 liter water bottle space, and some more space to spare. And let's now come to the most important matter at hand, which is the space. So the knee room is not complaint worthy per se. It's not the most generous of the knee rooms for such a big vehicle, but it's not bad either, knowing that a lot of space has been left for the cargo bay. But what I really cannot wrap my head around is that for such a large SUV, the headroom is surprisingly low, and me being 5 feet 10, if you're 5'11", you would probably be okay, but if you are a 6-footer, your head would definitely be brushing against the roof. Also, the legroom here is not the most generous, although you have some space under the seat to move your leg around. But this is not the most generous of the legrooms, knee rooms or headrooms I've seen. But for a twin cab kind of a format, this is sufficient, I guess. In terms of amenities and creature comforts, you get this wide armrest with 2 cup holders, a rear AC vents, these hooks which can be loaded with bags up to 4 kgs, these magazine holders, a separate light for the rear passenger, independent 3-point seat belts for all 3 passengers, Isofix child seat mounts, adjustable headrests for all three passengers. You have these two additional hooks here, these handles. However, you don't have any charging sockets here, so that's something that's missing. Also, there's no storage space at the rear except for the bottle holder. But these seats here are reasonably comfortable, barring the fact that the backrest is rather upright. On more comfortable cars, you have these slightly more inclined, so it's a little bit more comfortable. But all in all, I think it's a functional space. Could have been a little bit more spacious, a little bit more comfortable, could have had a few more amenities. But for a twin cab setup where you have a lot of space in the back, I think it's not bad at all, and it's actually pretty usable. So 4 people can travel in relative comfort, and if need be, thanks to the width of this car, for short to medium journeys, you can in fact load this car up with 5 people also, though that's not advisable because there's a big transmission hump here and the central part of the seat is also relatively raised. Now, before we talk about anything else, the first thing that you'd probably be interested in knowing is the off-road capability of this car, and I have driven it in pretty intense conditions today. As you can see right now also, I'm driving in a riverbed. So Toyota have left no stone unturned in demonstrating the off-road capability of this car, and internationally also this car is known to be one of the more reliable off-road cars. So there's no question on its capability, but still, to let you know what it's capable of, let me just break down the specs first. Let's start with the engine, because the engine here is a diesel unit. It's very powerful and torquey. It's a 2.8 liter turbo diesel engine with 204 PS of peak power, and the torque here is 500 Newton meters. And while the peak power is produced from 3000 RPM onwards, the torque is produced from as low as 1600 RPM. Now, for off-roading, especially if you're doing hardcore off-roading, you need a lot of torque down the rev range, and there this car absolutely excels. So for example, right now I'm just trundling along at sub 1000 RPM. This is the automatic version, and there's absolutely no point where I can complain about not having enough torque. So that's essentially the basis of its capability. It's very torquey. The power is sufficient to climb steep gradients and to take it out of tricky situations. So that's one. Now, apart from that, this car also comes with a very capable 4x4 system. So while you are in two-wheel drive mode, if you put it in 2 high, the power will be sent to the rear wheels, and you can move it to 4 high, what I have put it in right now. And once you do that, the power will be sent to all 4 wheels. In addition to that, once you go to the low ratio, where the ratio is 2.56, you can actually engage the locking rear diff also. And the good thing here is that you don't have to do it mechanically. You have a button, a dedicated button. So you use this button here to engage the locking diff. And what it does is that it prevents the wheel that doesn't have traction from spinning. So all of that is there, but apart from that, you also have limited slip differential. So even if you don't have 4x4 engaged, the limited slip differential will help you get out of tricky situations in case there is a wheel that's losing traction. The moment it senses a loss of traction, it will allow the wheel with traction to get the power and take you out of situations. So you won't essentially, if you want traction at the rear wheel, you won't essentially have to engage 4x4. So that's a very good thing. Apart from that, this car has very good ground clearance, very good all-terrain wheels, very good articulation, and of course the legendary Toyota reliability and the solid engineering is always there to support you. So in that sense, this car is pretty capable off the road. The water wading capability here is 700 mm, which is 50 mm more than the Thar, although the Thar's approach and departure angles, in fact the two-door Thar's breakover angle is also a little better than here. So this car's approach and departure angles are 29 degree and 26 degree, while the Thar has the approach and departure angles at 42 and 37 degrees. But as you know, the power and torque here is significantly better, so that somewhat compensates, although not entirely, because having good approach and departure angles are important. But having said all of that, this car is also pretty capable and can do a lot of amazing stuff. And if you really want to be exploring territories like we are, as you see right now, we are crossing one of the tributaries of Ganga, and there are so many water crossings. The traction is not readily available. There are big boulders along the way. You don't really have to bother about any of that in terms of articulation. Also, We showed you how well this car can do its articulation course. It can climb steep gradients. So all of that has been taken care of, and right now, as you can see, the Fortuner ahead of us is just literally driving through a river, and that's exactly what we are doing too. So in terms of off-road capability, you are pretty well covered. You don't really have to bother about anything. Now, coming towards the on-road capability and the ride quality and comfort and everything else. So as I mentioned, this is a very capable engine, a diesel engine, mated to an automatic 6-speed transmission on this car, and you also have a 6-speed manual transmission. Now, the power on both the versions is the same, but on the manual version you have 80 Nm less at 420 Newton meters. The hardware on both the variants, the standard and the high, is exactly the same. So even if you're buying the base standard variant, the hardware, the engine and the off-roading capability is more or less going to remain the same. So up front you have an independent suspension, and at the rear you have a leaf spring. Now this car is supposed to lug loads as well, with a 470 kg of payload capacity, which means that if you convert that into packs, or the number of people that you want to load up, there can be as many as 7 more people on this car, and that would be a lot of load. So this car has to bear a lot of load at the rear axle, and for that reason you have leaf springs, and that definitely has its bearings on the way this car behaves on broken patches. On the road it handles very well. On smooth highways, on well paved highways, this car handles rather well, especially for a pickup truck, holds its line rather well. There of course is a bit of body roll when you want to chuck it around corners, but the leaf spring at the rear lets you know its presence when you take it on broken patches, and the moment you get the car onto deeper potholes or onto ridges on the road, undulations, etc., there is a pronounced vertical movement, particularly in the back seat. So for the most part, if you're going to be driving on well paved roads, this car is okay, especially for the kind of work that it's meant to do. But the moment you drive it on undulating roads at high speeds, there is going to be a bit of vertical movement, and I think that's okay, knowing the kind of application that this car is meant for. It's not a luxury car per se, it's a workhorse which is supposed to provide some luxury. So you have to have that clear in your mind. The steering is moderately heavy. I don't think this is going to cause a problem for even the ones who are not heftily built. I don't find maneuvering it too difficult. However, the turning radius is pretty wide, and as compared to the Fortuner also, which is moving in front right now, the turning radius here is not as narrow, so the maneuverability can be a bit of issue in tight conditions. The engine, as I mentioned, is fantastically tractable. It offers tons and tons of torque. It's beautifully refined, doesn't make any noise at all, and feels buttery smooth. The transmission works beautifully well. You don't feel like the transmission is confused or is not slotting in the right gear at any point in time. It does its job well. It's not the fastest of the transmissions, and it's pretty brisk at what it does. The fuel efficiency for such a big engine, you would expect, is not too much, and such definitely is the case. So within the city you will get about 7 to 8 kmpl, and on the highway you will get about 11 to 12 kmpl if you are using a light right foot. All in all, this car doesn't like to be hustled. It's a fantastic highway cruiser. It can be driven fast around corners. Also, it holds its line reasonably well, but you don't want to be chucking it around like a corner, like a sedan, because of course it's a pickup truck and it has its own limitations. What it does deliver though is beautiful, torquey, buttery refined engine, a reasonably comfortable cabin for what it wants to do, and a terrific, indestructible, go anywhere capability that would make the outdoorsy ones amongst you love it to bits. In addition to all of that, this car is very well insulated too for an off-roader, and any noise from the outside is not allowed inside. It's very well insulated, and the cabin is surprisingly quiet for being an off-roader. The Hilux is available in 2 trims. The standard is available only in manual transmission, while the high trim is available in both manual and automatic transmissions. The difference is that the high variant gets automatic climate control with second row AC vents. It also gets leather seats, chrome plated inside door handles, and also gets a central armrest with storage along with power adjusted driver's seat. The high trim also gets LED daytime running lamps, LED headlamps, while the standard gets only halogen lamps. It also gets LED rear combination lamps, chrome surrounds on the grille. It also gets chrome on the rear bumper, chrome finished alloy wheel design, as against the machine finish alloy wheel design on the standard variant. And the ORVM on the high variant also gets this chrome casing, and it's not just electrically adjustable but also electric folding. The one on the standard version is only electrically adjustable. Finally, the high variant also gets this chrome belt line, which is missing on the standard version. In terms of safety, this car gets 7 airbags, it gets hill assist control, vehicle stability control with brake assist, it gets an anti-theft alarm. The front seats are also whiplash injury lessening. Of course, there is ABS, and this car also gets emergency brake signal. In terms of safety rating, the ASEAN NCAP has rated the Toyota Hilux at a very promising 5 stars. Now, in terms of warranty, this car comes with a 3 years, 100,000 kilometers warranty, and it can be extended up to 5 years, 1,50,000 kilometers. In terms of colors, the Toyota Hilux is available in 5 colors: emotional red, white pearl crystal shine, silver metallic, super white, and grey metallic. Now, the Toyota Hilux is rather legendary in terms of its reliability, its longevity, and its reputation internationally. And in that sense, it's rather unique, and it doesn't have a clear straight rival. If you really want to have a similar vehicle, you can have the Isuzu V-Cross as well. However, in terms of power, that vehicle produces a lot less power than this one, and the price difference is also quite high. The V-Cross range ends at 26 lakh rupees. The two vehicles are similar yet very distinguished, and in that sense this vehicle is unrivaled. It isn't the most comfortable, but if you are an outdoorsy person who wants to live his life to the fullest, it's a tagline that Toyota also is promoting. This is a vehicle that can be an aspiration for a lot of you. It can do a lot of things that a lot of other vehicles cannot. It boasts proper hardcore off-road capability. It can take you to places which a lot of other vehicles cannot go to, and with its huge loading bay can sustain you if you have the right gear, that is for days on end if you are into that kind of thing. So if you're wild at heart, the Toyota Hilux is for you. I really hope that I was able to answer all your questions about this vehicle. Still, if you have any questions, queries, any doubts, you can put them down in the comment section and I'll try to answer all your questions. And if you like such long format, high quality content, and if you're frustrated with the nonsense that's happening on social media, I would humbly request you to subscribe to Motoroids, because we believe in doing these long format, all encompassing videos which really help the car buyer. Until next time, then, this is your friend Amit signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and drive safe.